I taught D&D to middle schoolers, and here's how I did it. So if you've been around our channel at all, you know that our main goal is to celebrate and elevate the nerdy things we, as nerds, like to do. And a big part of that is introducing super awesome, fun, nerdy things to middle schoolers. So what I did in my local area is I connected with the Resource Center there to run what I called TTRPG 101, and I taught it to middle schoolers. It was a 6-week course, and we met once a week for an hour. I'll get into a little bit of what I did, how I did, and why I did the things that I did in this video, and you can decide for yourself whether it's helpful or not. Maybe you would do it completely different, and that's okay. Here's just how I did it, and definitely there are some things that I would want to tweak after doing it this way, but let's just get into what I did and what I discovered. So first thing I did is I knew I need visuals, and I didn't really want to create in visuals. So free resource, Canva. I do use Canva Pro because I use Canva for so many different things. And my notes are over here, so I'll be looking over here for a lot of them. I found past perfect tense education presentation in red and green, and it turned out to be TTRPG themed. So all these things, I didn't draw these little characters on the side, but this was perfect for what I do. So we got right into it. But I didn't want it to be super academic. So I wanted to start the entire experience like it was a D&D session. So I had the table set up, the students arrived, they sat down, we did a little bit of just, small talk, and then I turned up the music because I had some D&D background music. Again, Spotify is what I use. You can use whatever you want or not use it at all. And I just started painting a picture of a narrative. I got a bit of a resource, this idea from a D&D one-shot that was given to me that's very simple. It's a heist. Classic D&D scenario, a heist. And it was given to me by a gentleman in Spokane, Washington, of all places, at a local game store I just happened to visit. And this guy was awesome. I can't even remember the name of the store. I have to look that up sometime. But if I remember it, maybe I'll drop it in the comments. But here's what I did. I turned the music up, and I started it just like this, reading from this script. A mysterious letter finds its way into your backpack. It bears the crest of Waterdeep and smells faintly of black tea. Inside, a single sentence. An emerald dragon egg has been taken. Meet at Black Fang Vale before the red raven gets there. That's it. No name, no sender, just the whispers of a legendary artifact, a powerful collector named Lord Elaine Taldor, and a masked meat thief said to be able to vanish into thin air. The egg was last seen being sold to Secret to Taldor, the unmasked Lord of Waterdeep, a man with too many secrets and more money than morals. But word is, the Red Raven, famous thief, rebel, and shadow of the alleys, is also on the hunt. Now you stand on the edge of a story larger than yourself. You and your friends might be the only ones fast, clever, or brave enough to recover the egg, or keep it out of the wrong hands. But the question is, what role will you play? Before we begin this story, we have to learn how the game works. From there, I just kind of worked us into a little bit of get to know you. Here's my next slide in there. And I wanted to know their name, their grade, and who their favorite hero might be. To me, actually, it would start to give them a clue as to what type of hero they might end up playing. Because if they pick Thor, okay, they might like something like a paladin. If they picked Black Widow, they might something like a rogue. If they pick an anime character, I know enough about most nerd culture and pop culture to be dangerous. And it gives me a little bit of glimpse as to what type of character they might play. So we did a little bit of that. And we talked a little bit about what a role-playing game is. Players take on the roles of characters in a fictional world. One player is the dungeon master who guides the story. The game is built on imagination, choice, and collaboration. An example that I gave to share is it's like a movie or a book where you get to decide what the character does and says, and the story changes based on what everyone else does at as well. And from now, I even start to them to build their character as far as character creation mentally. So I ask the question: what's one trait your character might have? Brave, sneaky, strong, wise, silly. Write it down and share. So even at the beginning, before we're getting into character creation, I'm starting to get their brain moving as to what type of character they are going to play. So when it comes to role-playing games, creative storytelling are shared roles and experience. This is one of my favorite stories. This is the first time we did this class, and here's exactly my favorite part of it. We're talking about role-playing games, and everyone has a role. And to a table of youngling nerds, I gave this analogy. Like when for the Detroit Lions, there's a quarterback, and he has a specific role that he plays. Immediately, panic sweeps over the table. No one knows what I'm talking about. One kid literally blurts out, "I don't know sports." And to me, that was my first miss of this experiment. I probably won't use that metaphor going forward, but it was super fun learning experience for everyone. And we all had a good laugh. And we said, well, you know what a quarterback is, though, right? Like, the guys throw the ball. Oh, yeah, we know what that is. And there's the guys who catch the ball. Oh, yeah, okay. Using that analogy was a miss, but we did get there. So we talked about creative storytelling. We talked about key concepts, and that role-playing games are shared storytelling experiences. They describe their characters, their actions, what they do, and how they react. The DM sets the scene, but the players move the story forward. I just kind of try to break down. Again, these are middle schoolers, so I'm not trying to shoot over the top of everyone. We're not shooting for a Critical Role or Dimension 20 cast right now, right? We just want to get them to understand how to play well with others. And so just simple improv comedy or improv, yes, and. Which I know because I've been playing a lot of D&D for a long time, but not everyone gets that concept. So we talked about the positive, a negative way it could play out, and just like in different nothing happens. The yes and way to play. You have the idea, and then somebody yes ands, and you move on to the next idea, and that's how you get a fun story. So we kind of broke it down in a formula. This is kind of a not-so-fun story. Someone has the idea, someone else says, no, but this idea instead, and then you have conflict in storytelling. You have two people trying to tell two different stories, and that actually came up in our final session when the kids kind of had some last day of school energy on it. So one kid decided he was going to try and maybe just like take all the gold and run away. And this was the point of like, well, he has a conflict storytelling in he had an idea that was conflicting the story of the other players. We got there, all right. They're in middle school, and we did have to say, hey, if we want to continue this campaign, you're not going to want to make friends with all these people. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. I guess I won't do that. So we were able to back it up. Then you have indifferent. The idea, there's no yes and, there's no but. And you just get a stale story. You just get sort of a really black and white. Next thing happens. The next thing happens. The next thing happens. And that's not fun. So we gave them the example of player 1, I sneak into the castle. Player 2, yes, and I grab a loaf of bread while you distract the cook. So here's what we did for that game. We got the players together, and we just started with really similar like to telephone. There are a lot of little activities throughout this quote-unquote curriculum. And so we started with a treasure chest in the middle of the room. No backstories, no characters. One character just starts with the sentence, I open the chest and. The next player adds something, just simply saying, well, you open the chest, and then they really got on, really picked up quick. Even these are kids who've never played D&D before. Really picked it up quick. You open the chest, and I watch the hall for guards, I think was one of them that was said. And the next one was, and I find inside a treasure. And the ball kept rolling. This idea, this activity, depending on how many you have, could take 3-5 minutes. This is not long. This is not going to take 15 minutes of your time. This first curriculum, quote-unquote, we got through in an hour with the students. Keep it going around, build it until you get to the point where it's just kind of ridiculous or feels like a good conclusion. Again, you're the DM of this. I was the DM of this. You could be the DM of. If you want to use this, that's fine. And we just kept going. Emphasize teamwork, listening to what's happening, and just go ahead and celebrate creativity. Okay, so that's what we did there. Initiative and taking turns. In D&D, everyone gets a turn during combat or structured moments. Maybe to say something or do something. Maybe it's a turn, and maybe use initiative for that. Initiative helps us decide who goes first, and you roll a 20-sided die and add their initiative bonus. Each turn in combat is made up of different types of actions. And so far, everything we've been doing is not just D&D specific. So far, everything that we've been doing up until this point could be any tabletop role-playing game. These things are all true. I was just using D&D because it's some of the most hot button, it's got a little bit more clickbait, so I knew kids would sign up because people more have heard about Dungeons and Dragons. Kids on Bikes might have been a really good one, and they're actually all simpler and easier versions of TTRPGs out there for kids. They're just way more simple. But I thought let's just give it a shot. Let's do Dungeons and Dragons. Let's allows me to put it, and I named my class TTRPG 101. A guide to playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, so Wizards of the Coast couldn't come after me for suing me. I don't think they would, but you never know. Anyway, so we talked about the things you can do. You have your let's see, is that on the next slide? Yes, action economy. Your main thing to do for the turn: the attack or cast a spell, help a teammate, etc. Your movement: you can move a certain distance, usually somewhere between 30 and 35 feet for D&D. A bonus action, and some characters or abilities actually do a quick extra thing, and then a reaction, a special response to something that happens on someone else's turn, like dodging or casting a spell when attacked. Here's what I did. We played a really easy version of this game. We played 2-on-2 basketball. I have a big book of battle maps. I let them roll, and high roll just got to pick a map. They could pick any map in the book, and they picked a crazy one, and that made it fun for them too. Divided them up into two people, 2 versus 2, and here's we played basketball. I set a hoop on each side of the map, and each person got to pick a mini for their character, and I just grabbed a D20, and that was the ball. You had a really limited things you could do. On your turn, for your action, you could shoot it or pass it. For your movement, you're obviously dribbling the ball on offense. And for your bonus action, you could do something like pump fake or do a sick trick, a ball handling move to maybe increases your chances of scoring the basket. Okay, so those were their options. Gave them a really small amount of movement, so they would have to shoot it or would have to pass it eventually. On defense, you could use your movement, and you could position yourself in a place for a reaction, like blocking someone's shot or trying to steal the ball. Those were your very limited things you could do. And the game took maybe 10, 15 minutes. We were just trying to score a couple baskets to get the idea of it, and they were able to roll some dice. I just said the modifiers for everything are +1, so we would have to get used to adding modifiers. And they rolled D20s, shooting a basket from the distance. The farther away it was, the harder I made it. If they tried to throw it across the map, I said, you're going to have to hit like an 18 or a 19 on your D20. And so it kind of got the rhythm, the feel. They rolled initiative to learn who goes first and who goes second, and gave them a short glimpse into action economy. And it was fun. Dice, when and how to use them. So dice was a fun one. We really just went over the dice and talked about what they do and when you use them. There's no special activities for that. This is, and I stopped. This is where I stopped. So this from here on is all just the actual person's template still. So I stopped here. After then, we talked a little bit about some of the terminology that they were going to hear in Dungeons and Dragons, things like Eldritch and Arcane and Fireball and things like that. Just a real glimpse of the vocab. And then at the end, we talked a little bit about their hero again. I briefly went over the key ideas, and I said you need to be a hero in a story that you help create. Teamwork, imagination, and dice help shape the adventure. Everyone has a role. No one is left out. And essentially, that's all that really was. So, what I did for session 2 was we talked a little bit about character creation. And I, again, inserted us as the narrative. This one I didn't have a script for. I just kind of went with it. But essentially, it was something along the line of this. You stand in Black Fang Vale. The trees surround you. 4 characters in the shadows. They begin to emerge one by one. But what do they look like? Are they tall? Are they short? Are they skinny? Are they fat? What races are they? Are they halflings or dwarves or giants? We're about to find out. And then I just went into a little bit of the character classes in D&D. I started with races, and I kept it to 5 races for this campaign: human, dwarf, elf, halfling, and Goliath. I did want to add a little bit of the mysterious or the fantasy beyond just the standard. So I went to game rules, species, and talked a little bit about these ones. And I just clicked on them in the slideshow, and we just kind of read a little bit about what they do. It was that easy. D&D Beyond, you can make a free account. You can pay for it, or you can make a free account. And it limits you to a really small amount of characters, but I did the same for classes. We talked about classes, and I did the same exact thing. We limited it to 6 classes because I didn't want it to get too out of control. A barbarian, a sorcerer, a fighter, a cleric, a ranger, and a paladin. We talked a little about what they do in the 3 roles of the role-playing game. So we described a little bit about what a tank was. Tank is what they do. They kind of take a lot of hits. They do a lot of damage. They're a fighter. Some good classes that might be helpful are, barbarian, fighter, paladin. And they're all taking notes during this time. I encourage them to take notes or write down things that they liked or found interesting. I talked about support class or healer classes, and then DPS, damage per second, which was a term that was new to most of them, but kind of just someone who's doing damage and trying not to get hit. So we talked a little bit about what they liked, and then we went to combining them a little bit. And what they settled on was a halfling sorcerer, a Goliath fighter, and one girl had heard about a tiefling, and she had her heart set on being a tiefling. I didn't really want to, but like when a little kid looks at you with those big, I'm not going to know but this little girl's yes and. You know what I'm saying? So we let her be a tiefling, and she was a tiefling ranger. And then finally, last but not least, there was a elf paladin. So those were the characters that they came up with. Those are the characters that they discussed. They talked a little bit about that role and described them. And then at I kind of sent them home with a little bit of what they had built. And towards the end, I did build them in D&D Beyond. So I kind of took the information that they were thinking of. We kind of quickly ripped up character sheets, level 1s, because I didn't want to have to overcomplicate it, make it easy for myself. And we're just trying to learn the game more than we are trying to have like a long campaign anyway. So that's how that all worked out. That was session 2, which led us into session 3, which was going to be our session 0. So we played just a classic tavern session 0. I use it in so many scenarios. They all meet at a tavern. They get roped into fighters for an underground ring. So there's a little bit of social interaction and then half fighting interaction. And they did great. They for new players, they had a lot of fun. They fought 3 apes and a scaled down gelatinous cube. Just a classic D&D villain in there. Had to do some of the classics without making it overpowered, and they did pretty good. They dealt good damage. They had good movement. For the most part, everything was really well received by them. There were only a couple changes that they wanted to make at the end of Session 0. And so we just made those tweaks. And then the last 3 sessions, so we had kind of Classroom 1, Classroom 2, Session 0, and then the last 3 sessions, we played through this heist. And we started Session 0 with the tavern. We started official Session 1 coming out of the tavern saying that they had all met at the tavern. They had recognized each other. And again, I had them coming out of the bushes, describing their character as they came out of the bushes, what they saw, any changes that they might have made. So with that, the next 3 sessions were this egg heist in this small town. They spent the first session getting themselves admittance to the party that the egg was going to be displayed at. So they were there. They all had different ways of getting in, which was great. 2 of them essentially got invitations. 1 got a date, and then the other one, what did the other one do? Oh, the other one beat up a guard and took his uniform so he could just pose as security. So all great stuff. Session 2, we had the typical, and this is over 6 weeks, right? So we had the stereotypical not everyone could make it session. Normally, if this was any other campaign, we would do something else. We would do some kind of side quest. But in this particular case, to keep the story moving, I just had the 2 people that were able to make it that session continue on. They found their way into the party. They created a great distraction to get into the vault. And then the third and final session, I had the other 2 players just describe, not leading up. I didn't start the back and lead them forward. I actually started them at the end. They're already there. Tell the table what you were doing while all of this was happening. So I gave them the recap and tell them what you were doing while all this was happening, and they were able to narrate themselves into the story without breaking canon or like going back and having double it back on anything like that. So that made it really easy. They entered the vault, and in an hour they were able to like have a mini boss fight, solve a puzzle that was in the fight. Essentially, I just took a ton of D20s. Set them over a map. 3 of the D20s were a particular color. I said that they were different eggs. There's only 1 green dragon egg. And they had to match up the color of the D20 with the color of the pedestal. That was the puzzle that was happening during the fight. It looked like they weren't getting the puzzle part. They were just focused on the combat. Because as soon as they started touching treasure, triggered a trap of an automaton who's there to guard the vault. Well, they weren't getting it, so the automaton was meant to never die. However, I let it die so they could actually solve the puzzle and unlock the green dragon egg. They took the green dragon egg, they heisted it out of there, returned it to the person who had contracted them, which was in fact a shape-shifted ancient green dragon. I wanted to give one scene where they just really see the majesty, as best I can describe it anyway, of seeing a dragon in Dungeons and Dragons. They tried to attack it, and I wanted to make sure it was very, very clear. I'm not going to total party kill them in this moment, because one of the things I learned about middle schoolers is they like conclusion at the end of each session. Give me that cliffhanger. Give me the reason to wait on the edge of my seat for a week to come back and play again. They're not about that life, okay? They are way more apt to want to continue on versus if they feel accomplished at the end of a session versus just that constant chasing those cliffhanger endings. So keep that in mind if you do ever DM for middle schoolers. That's something that you may want to consider as whatever your sessions were. Find ways to conclude them. So here are the things that I think were good about this curriculum. Number 1, it was always immersive. Every session that we started that didn't have Dungeons and Dragons play, I still added narration that made it captivating for them to want to be involved. And because of that, I think it kept them on the edge of their seats. So you're going to have to be a good storyteller. It can be off the dome, it can be scripted, whatever it is. I would recommend keeping those moments immersive as well. So the second thing I think I did really well is just mini games. Up until we're playing D&D, mini games everywhere. Find ways to roll dice, find ways to have fun. I found out, probably just like myself, middle schoolers love rolling dice. Give them any reasons. Most of them got brand new dice just for this class, okay? So they're already excited to roll dice. And the other thing I think I did really well is really just making sure that no matter what the level of experience was at the table, that everyone got to take turns and have a hero moment. Some things I would change. Obviously, I mentioned it before. I would punt the football metaphor. We're not using that again, probably ever again. I'll probably run a similar class like this again. Just continue to create more youngling nerds and give them spaces and places to be nerdy. I would change that. The other thing I would probably change is an hour is really tight. We did it. I might change it to an hour and 15 just for a little bit of wiggle room. It sometimes looked like that hour would come up, creeping up on me, and I'm like, man, I've got to get them to narrate this. And it's not adults. So it's young middle school kids with very short attention spans and literally wanting to the end is here, right? The end was right there. All they had to do was drop off the egg. They had completed the quest, but got distracted with a desire to invent Mountain Dew and Doritos. Did I see that coming? Nope. Did I have plans and notes prepared for that? Absolutely not. But all that to say, be ready for the unexpected, especially with middle schoolers and younger students. So I would maybe make it an hour 15, maybe not quite an hour. Might depend on the group as well. Probably the final thing I would change is I would actually find ways to make it even more immersive. I don't think you can go wrong with making it too immersive. I was thinking about might be good to present them with notebooks at the beginning, trinkets, whatever it may be. Make it feel as much like a tavern or a D&D on location, a dungeon as possible. The room I used was big, which was really helpful because it allowed parents to sit in as well. So that might be my final recommendation for that. If you do something like this with younger kids, do it in as open, as public place as possible. That's going to let parents trust you, trust what you're doing. Just good practice and good safety for yourself as an adult with a room full of kids, and safety for them as well. But that was it, friends. That was a conclusion of TTRPG 101. I think it went swimmingly. I had a lot of fun, and they did too. I did ask them to sign, their parents to sign waivers, giving me permission to post about some things online. So we've got some videos floating around on our social media of a little bit of introductions of them, introducing their characters. So feel free to check those out. If you want more videos like this, drop a comment, hit that follow. I appreciate your support because really what we're doing is trying to create a big picture of celebrating and elevating the nerdy things students and really just people like to do. This is one of the ways we've been able to do that, and it has been because of support from you. It's because of your likes. It's because of your shares. It's because of your comments. And for those of you who sub to our Patreon, your financial contribution made stuff like this happen and will continue to do so in the future. So if you don't sub to our Patreon, you can find tons of things there, including the people who saw this video first and exclusive access to early access to our D&D podcast, along with any of the content we post. Patreon gets it first, and there are exclusive content exclusive to Patreon itself. Thanks for sticking around for this video. I know it was a long one, but I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you do here at the table. I'm Nate. I'm a knight here at the Nerd Table. You're always welcome, and we saved you a seat. So until we see you here next time, good night, nerds.